1973. What was I thinking about in 1973? I was watching the Mary Tyler Moore show, very feminist show. I was also flipping through my TV guides all the time looking for Brady Bunch reruns because they had just canceled it, which was quite tragic. I was not so much playing with Kittles anymore. Might still play with a Barbie every once in a while, and sometimes we used Kittles as Barbie's baby. I was also still crushing on William Shatner, my #1 crush guy, looking for Star Trek reruns, which were on Channel 61 every night. I was starting to my crushes on Parker Stevenson, my personal favorite party boy, and I read a lot of Tiger Beat magazine. One of the things that I was not thinking about was abortion rights. You know why? Because I had them. I was only 11 and my abortion rights were secure. And fortunately for me, just a few years before I got my period, a couple years after 1973, Roe v. Wade was decided by the Supreme Court, and it secured our abortion rights for the next 50 years. I didn't have to think about it. Kids these days are not quite so lucky, especially kids with uteruses. On June 24th, 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which was, up until that point, settled law for about 50 years. And they put back the decision of how to deal with abortion rights to each individual state. So that triggered, in Ohio, the Heartbeat Bill, which basically outlawed abortion after 6 weeks, except with no exceptions for rape or incest or health of the mother. The overturning of Roe v. Wade also triggered armies of wonderful gray-haired postmenopausal women who remembered what it was like back then, before abortion rights, and also ones like myself who had enjoyed abortion rights for our whole reproductive years. Armed with clipboards, we took to the streets. We basically got the 700,000 signatures that we needed to collect in order to put the Abortion Rights Amendment into the Ohio Constitution. We needed to get it onto the ballot for our upcoming November ballot. And fortunately, we were successful. We got it on the ballot for November, which is why this artist wants you to remember to vote yes on issue 1 if you live in Ohio this coming November. Welcome everyone to this special edition of Living Figuratively at my solo show, Mothers, Women, Children Choices at Chagrin Arts right on Main Street in Chagrin Falls. This show is one that tries to reach out to the other side that consider themselves pro-life to basically show you that maybe you might be pro-choice after all too, because it's such a nuanced decision that no clear legislative lines can be drawn that will make everybody happy, including those who really have no business telling women what to do with their reproductive lives. So, without further ado, let's start. We'll look at the paintings. First up, right here, this is a giclée of a painting that is safely in the hands of the family that I've depicted here. It's called Portrait of Joy, Madonna and Child. It's from an offshoot of my Goddess Project series where I honor women with halos, because all women who are mothers deserve halos, and plenty of them. It also brings up the whole issue of different ways of having children. The fertility treatment issue. That's one of the things that is going to be affected if there is by anti-abortion legislation. Right now, fertility processes are it's a very complex set of things that need to happen with the doctor and the couple or the woman who is undergoing the fertility treatment. And anti-abortion legislation threatens all of that. It makes it inaccessible, not safe, not healthy, and illogical with no sensible ways of doing it. So fertility legislation, or anti-abortion legislation, will affect fertility treatments and prevent very wanted babies from being born. So that's yet another reason why I'm pro-choice and why I want you to vote yes on issue 1, because it does guarantee the right to fertility treatments. Bringing me to the next painting that we have here. This one is called Ban Heartbeat Bills. So what's a heartbeat bill? That's the bill that kicked in as soon as in Ohio, as soon as Roe v. Wade was overturned. The heartbeat bill basically states that once fetal activity, once electrical activity is sensed by a sonogram, you can no longer have an abortion. And they're mistakenly calling it a heartbeat, when in fact it really is just electrical activity in fetal matter that is like this. This is actual size. It's only about a ½ inch. I don't see any little baby or anything like that in there. This is what they're talking about, and preventing an abortion when fetal matter is at this stage and they're sensing electrical activity. So the heartbeat bills are really, really damaging, and for most people, it's before they even know they're pregnant that they are prevented from making this life-altering decision in their life. So that's why the message hanger on this one is, I have a heartbeat too, because women, girls with uteruses, everybody that can get pregnant has a heartbeat too. Moving along to the next one. Speaking of wanting to get pregnant and very wanted babies, this painting is called Isis. Isis Makes It Happen. She is also from my Goddess Project series. She is the centerpiece from a triptych called the Godfather Trilogy, where I show 3 different instances of immaculate magical conception that take place in 3 different religions across the past, 8 millennia. This is Isis from the Egyptian religion. She was a great queen who was married to Horus, who was a great king of Egypt. Horus's evil brother Set murdered Horus before an heir could be conceived, and therefore he was going to, Set, the evil brother, was going to get the throne. It's a story that's repeated in Lion King and Hamlet, and and in real life too. So Isis knows that she needs to conceive an heir to keep this evil Set guy from taking over the throne. So she asks for help from the gods, and the gods help her perform a resurrection, brings her husband back to life, and then she has to perform another type of resurrection and make herself pregnant with Horus as the father of her child, which miraculously, with help from the gods, and nowadays it would be from medical technology, she is successful in doing that. So somebody who very purposely wants to have a child and makes it happen, even though they don't have the traditional means to make it happen, the old-fashioned way, should be allowed to do that, which is another thing that is guaranteed in the Reproductive Rights Amendment, which I want you to vote yes on. And women that do this also need to be guaranteed the right to have good health care during their pregnancies, and should complications occur, they need to live in a stage where they have made abortion safe and legal again. Which leads me to my next painting, MASALA, Make Abortion Safe and Legal Again. This is probably my most dramatic of the pro-choice pieces. It actually won Best in Show last year at the Akron Society of Artists show, their 91st annual jury show. So it got put onto the publicity for this year's show. But they neglected a couple things when they were putting it on the publicity. they cropped out the words, make abortion safe and legal again, which is a little odd. And then they also, when they put the title of the painting, they only put MASALA, which is much more cryptic than the whole title, which I gave them and made them spell out and write on the form, make abortion safe and legal again. I'm not sure who's responsible for this mistake, and something makes me think it was a little bit intentional, but I'm setting the record straight right now. The painting is called Make Abortion Safe and Legal Again, and tries to drive the point home very clearly with the bloody stripes on the flag, because the bloody stripes on the flag symbolize how women and people who can get pregnant will die if we do not make abortion safe and legal again in Ohio. And not just from back alley abortions and self-induced abortions. They will die in labor and delivery, wanting badly to deliver a very wanted baby. Because doctors right now have to wait until the woman's life is super in danger before they can save her life. And there's no other form of healthcare where you have to wait until it's an absolute crisis before you can save the person. You can save the person way sooner, like for instance, with an appendectomy. You don't have to wait until the appendix bursts. You can take it out before the appendix bursts. But in the case of a pregnant woman who is delivering, labor delivery, if they have to check with legal before they can save her, women will die. Thus, the bloody flag. And she's got the Ohio state flag as well. Skipping on over, and then that's also why you want to vote yes on issue 1. Let's skip over to the next one. Also from my Godfather trilogy, I've got Lita and the Swan. There's no way to tell the Lita and the Swan story without calling it a frank and brutal rape. In Greek mythology, the god Zeus, even though he was married to beautiful Hera, a goddess herself, he was a big bad cheater, and he had a lust for mortal women. So oftentimes he would come down to earth, and instead of disguising himself, because he could turn himself into whatever he wanted, instead of just turning himself into like a very handsome Greek dude that would just charm these ladies, he turned himself into something weird, like a pigeon, a bull, a puff of smoke, a shower of coins, and in Lita's case, a swan. So he came to Lita in swan format, raped her, and made her pregnant. So Lita now is pregnant, and in my painting, she's looking at him with the knowing look of somebody who has suffered a great wrong, but has become wise because of it, and she's taking charge of the pregnancy that she didn't want or ask for. Which is a choice too, taking charge of it and accepting it. She does ultimately give birth to Helen of Troy and not some weird swan-human hybrid, which is also a fear. She gives birth to the beautiful Helen of Troy, whose face launched 1,000 ships, and I've described that and made reference to it with the ships here in the sunset. But she had no options and no agency, and she is much like women right here, right now, in the state of Ohio and many states in the United States. So here we are now with the third one from my Godfather trilogy, where we have Mary. So this is the Virgin Mary from the Judeo-Christian Bible in the New Testament. Mary's situation, there was no rape described in the Bible. Mary, it was more like a unintended or unasked for artificial insemination, because she wakes up and she has to be told that she was pregnant by the angel Gabriel. Ultimately, if the Christians and the artists are right, Mary actually accepts and embraces this pregnancy. There's plenty of paintings where she's ecstatic about it and, clouds and wonderful, and she's happy about it. I mean, she is, after all, going to give birth to the nicest, most woke guy in the whole entire Bible, baby Jesus. And she's a very highly respected figure. People pray to her all the time. She gets a really good role in the Bible. She only gets 6 speaking parts in the Bible, though, which I thought was very interesting. And 2 of those speaking parts are actually at the wedding at Cana, where they've run out of wine, and she goes to Jesus, and she's like, hey, Jesus, can you do one of your miracles here? So, Mary has embraced her pregnancy, and she's chosen to heaven, and, that's a choice too. Which leads me to one of the things that people who are anti-choice and who did not sign the petition and will be voting against abortion rights have told me as their reasoning. So they tell me, my mom was 16 when she got pregnant, and she was pressured to have an abortion. Everybody thought she should have an abortion, but she chose not to, and she had me, and voila, here I am. Happy ending. So I say to them what the lawyers used to say on LA Law back in the day when I used to watch that show. They used to say, asked and answered. She chose to have the pregnancy. She chose to have you. She made the decision. She had options, and she chose to have you. Just because you're in a situation that you didn't ask for doesn't mean you can't choose to accept it and embrace it. She chose to have you. And that is all we're asking when we ask you to vote yes on issue 1, is to trust women. Which leads me to my next painting, Trust Women, right here. Trust Women and her sister painting, My Body, My Decision, are both based on the Michelangelo's David statue right here, who I have censored because I know he got in trouble down in Florida just a few months ago when an art teacher showed this photograph of the sculpture to her class. In fact, I think the art teacher got fired, which is ridiculous, but that's Florida. Right now we're talking about Ohio. It's Michelangelo's David, the David figure from the Old Testament, is the classic underdog story. He is a young boy who takes on the giant Goliath, who is terrorizing his city. And he's armed with nothing but a slingshot and a lot of courage. And he takes down Goliath. Goliath falls to the ground. David cuts off his head, brings back the head victorious, and he grows up to become one of the great kings of Israel. So I have reimagined the classic David as a woman taking down the patriarchy, as symbolized by the American flag, pierced with hangers with messages on them. These hangers are harbingers and sad reminders of the pre-Roe v. Wade days that we are now experiencing in our post-Roe v. Wade time. So the 2 paintings in this sister grouping are My Body, My Decision and Trust Women. Trust Women is a little bit sadder. She's more, disheartened by the situation that women have in our state and our country right now. Whereas My Body, My Decision, she's ready for the fight. Right behind me is a painting. This one is called One. And this one brings up questions and issues that are also part of the nuance of the abortion issue. This was not intended to be an abortion rights painting or a pro-choice painting. It was really a tender expression of love between mother and child. When this couple, mother and child, came to pose for me, their bond and the way they related with each other was so sweet and so tender and so symbiotic. I felt like that they were truly one. And that's why I called the painting One. But it does bring up some questions, which I never did ask and I never found out the answer to. The question is, why are they both bald? Who shaved their head in solidarity with who? And it brings up an issue in the pro-choice spectrum. The health of the mother. When legislation says that you have the right to abortion only for the life of the mother, but not the health of the mother, issues like this might come up. Like, for instance, what if the mother has cancer while she's pregnant? If you have cancer while you're pregnant, you can't have chemo until after you're done being pregnant. If you delay your pregnancy for 9 months, maybe you will die. It won't be an emergency, but you might die sooner. You might not be around to be a mother to your existing children. You might, maybe live 5 years so you can see your existing children graduate from elementary school. But maybe you won't be around to see them graduate from high school. And maybe you want to be around for those existing children. If the government forces you into a situation where you're going to die sooner, it's not necessarily life of the mother. It's not the emergency situation we talk about in labor and delivery, where the doctor has like a minute to save you. This is a measured decision where you have to talk about it with your spouse, your children, yourself, your faith, everybody, and then make the decision, and of course your doctor, and make the decision yourself. It's not something where a neat line can be drawn around it by legislation and people that have no business sticking their nose into your personal health care. It's so nuanced. And this is yet another reason why I'm thinking you want to vote yes on issue 1. So let's move along. This painting right here was the first one that I painted using the Ohio state flag. Originally, this painting was called No Way to Go, Ohio, because I painted this right when the heartbeat bill kicked in as soon as Roe v. Wade was overturned. And I was really very upset with Ohio. Abortion is healthcare, and my model was very much into posing for a pro-choice painting. I've got the hangers in the background. Again, that's one of my general themes. And her face has all kinds of fear on it because who knows how things are going to work out in Ohio. Since I painted this painting, and since we've armed the streets and gotten the Reproductive Rights Amendment onto the ballot, there's a lot more hope for Ohio. And I have actually put this extra flap on there, another label, that says Hope for Ohio, because I do have hope that more of us will vote yes on issue 1. And hopefully we will be okay with that. The same model also posed for, let's finish up with on a positive note, for this painting right here, Reproductive Rights. It's called The Goal. And the goal is reproductive rights right now. Right now. I have her as an Amazon warrior shooting straight for what the actual goal is. And hopefully this is prophetic. The hangers are just hanging around down here in the underbrush. They're not piercing the whole background. Hopefully they will be a sad reminder of the past and not a harbinger of the future. Hopefully we will restore our rights when we vote yes on issue 1. Hopefully there will be hope for Ohio. And for all of you that live in other states that are watching Ohio, if your state is on its way to this, wants to do something like this, is close to this, I would love for my collection of paintings to come to your state and hopefully help you guys. Hopefully we won't need them anymore here in Ohio. We'll see. Anyway, thank you all for joining me for Living Figuratively. You still have a couple weeks to come see this show. In fact, you can come see it when you're on the way back from dropping off your ballot, where you're voting yes on issue 1. The show will be here till November 17th, and the gallery hours are Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 11 to 4. So please come see the show. But more importantly, forget the show. Vote yes on issue 1.